up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What's good, people? What is up? What is up? Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. You sound like you're not happy to see me.
Where are you interpreting
I'm happy to see you.
this lack of enthusiasm?
Well, either way, I'm happy to see you, sir. How are
Another
you?
week, another show.
How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. The week
Very good. Very
is
good.
well. It's all so good.
Mm.
And what's that?
This is lemonade. That's it. That's all.
With a little vodka and a little, now knowing you
No,
gin.
not no. No
Gin.
gin yet.
Mm.
Not yet. Maybe later tonight when I'm done. Anyway, I'm probably gonna pour me a drink when I'm done with this. I'm almost certain I will. Anyway, sir, I am so glad to see you. We have so many things to talk about today. And welcome everybody who's coming in to Red, Blue, and Black, episode number 25. Child, that means we can get the good insurance now, the good car insurance now. We done turned 25, honey. Our parents can't even claim us on their taxes no more. Um, and we're the ripe young age of 25. What was I doing when I was 25? Let's see. That was the year of our Lord, 2004. Oh, I was in a relationship. Mm,
Oh,
mm. I spent all my 20s in relationships with menses, and now should have just been sowing my wild oats back there.
2013 for me.
So
2000 was not a good year.
anyway, this is Red, Blue, and Black, y'all. Me and Cam's got a lot to talk about. We got some things to discuss. We are going to talk about what most of us probably just finished watching not long ago. Senator Cory Booker of the great state of New Jersey and his marathon filibuster. We are going to discuss some cuts that are happening to our to several government agencies via the clandestine um, Department of Government Efficiency. That should be alarming. And then we're going to talk about Liberation Day. Yay! Tomorrow, Cam. Aren't you looking forward to Liberation Day,
It
April
should have been.
2nd?
It should have been today for April Fool's Day because only a fool would implement this economic policy.
Those are the three things that we'll be discussing today. Looking forward to it. hmm Looking forward to it. You ready to get this party started, Cams?
As always, when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
hmm They said it. Stay up. Mm. They said I stay clean too. Mm.
You are on one
This
tonight.
is why we can't have nice things.
Can't have shit.
This is exact. Me and Cams did not coordinate this, y'all. We both wear glasses. We both have on a hat and a hoodie on top of our hat. So, and we did not coordinate this at all today. This was not like I came on camera, had this on. He came on camera, he had that on, and we did not coordinate this at all.
You get what you get.
Anyway, let's go ahead and dive right on in. So we start with Senator Cory Booker, who at around 7 o'clock p.m. yesterday, March 31st, began a filibuster of the United States Senate, which shut down all Senate business. That filibuster went through the night. It went this morning. It went all day today, and it ended around 8:05 this evening for a record-breaking 25 hours 5 minutes, which beat the previous record held by one of the most racist and bigoted members of the Senate, of the modern Senate, that being Senator Strom Thurmond of the great state of South Carolina.
Ain't shit great about South Carolina.
Huh?
There's nothing great about South Carolina.
Oh, well, there is some great things, y'all. Going on down there and have a look at some of what they got going on downstairs. It is kind of great. I've been there. Mm. Anyway, Strom Thurmond at that time was filibustering against the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Now, most people don't even know that there was a Civil Rights Act of 1957. And that Civil Rights Act passed. It had no teeth in it. It didn't mean anything, but it actually Strom Thurmond and his 24 plus hour filibuster did not impede that act from passing, but it did nothing to help civil rights across this country. There was no teeth into civil rights until, and people, Camps, people often talk about the Voting Rights Act, the civil, the all of the acts, and that happened during Lyndon B. Johnson's term, as if there was one singular act. There
Nope.
was acts in 1964 and 65, and there were a slew of executive orders um, that went into effect, that many of which were still into effect until this administration. And there were so many things that had to happen in that Congress um between the years of 64 to about 66. That Congress, and actually it was two different Congresses. It was a Congress that ended, the Congress that was in session, that started on January of 63 and went until January of 65. Then there was the next Congress that went from January of 65 until January of 67. Those two Congresses probably were some of the most influential and consequential Congresses in terms of civil rights. And I only bring that up because we talk about um, um, the civil rights era and these acts as if it was one unilateral thing, and there was so many things
No,
that happened.
I would say that there are really three big pieces that I take from the 1960s. Really, when we talk about civil rights, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and then the Fair Housing Act in '68. Those I would always consider the big three.
There were, in addition to that, there were several executive orders that forced companies not to end segregation with water fountains and things like that. There were
Mhm.
several executive orders that influenced hiring processes as well, um, that had real teeth in them.
The
Um,
EEOC, I mean, that came out
mhm, that came out of there.
of it.
Um, Shortly thereafter, we had uh, um, several congressmen. Um, well, we had the first black female congresswoman, Shirley Chisholm, in 1968. In 1972, you had the CBC that was formed when the slate of new freshman Congress, men and women, people like Charles Rangel, Barbara Jordan, along with Shirley Chisholm and others that were in that Congress at that time. There were so many other things that moved the needle. Now, Cory Booker had this today. He said the impetus for this was his constituents telling him, as constituents across America have been telling their elected officials that are Democratic leaning, motherfucker, do something. Stop sitting down and just going hashtag Bohica. Do something. Take a risk. And I often say on my platform here that everybody has to play their part. Everybody has to do what they can do and play their part. Um, I think me and Kamz are on different sides of this. I am on the side of one person can start a movement and then hopefully others will join. Um, I don't know why the Dems have not shut down the Senate already. We've seen people on the other side shut the Senate down. Look at Tommy Tuberville. Look at Tuberville and what he did for so long in the Senate with regard to stopping confirmations of any military general. Remember, there was nobody that could get confirmed as a military general only because Tommy Tuberville said he wasn't going to vote, and the Dems had the majority.
Yeah, he
Mitch
placed
McConnell,
the hold on it,
huh?
the hold process.
Right. Mitch McConnell made it where the filibuster, because when Strom Thurmond and them were filibustering, this was a speaking filibuster. Well, they would stand in front of Congress and do like Cory Booker did today. Mitch McConnell say, "Baby, I'm too old for this. I ain't got time for all of that. I'm gonna call this shit in and say, hey, I'm filibustering. Let it go. You don't gotta come. I'm filibustering." And so that side of the aisle always finds a way to flex and get their way through these types of tactics and political posturing and maneuvering, whereas the left does not have that type of testicular and intestinal fortitude, and I don't think they want to have it. I mean, raggedy ass Chuck Schumer clapping and applauding Cory Booker 1 foot out of the grave. Oh my God, we're so proud of you. Fuck you, Chuck Schumer, because you ain't doing a damn thing. But I mean, I'll let you go, Cams. I do. I was with Corey on this one.
I mean, I agree with the rationale for why he basically went up there for over 25 hours. I think that the impact of the budget cuts that are going to affect social programs, particularly those aimed at reducing funding for Medicaid, that provides health insurance for millions of low-income Americans, the cuts to Social Security, or SS, DI. They want to make cuts to those as well. I mean, I think that that's going to make some people severely vulnerable. They're already the most vulnerable, but they're gonna become more vulnerable. So it's making me uncomfortable because it feels like we just throw away the most disadvantaged people in the country. We don't give a shit about them. They've paid into a system, and then we'll pull the rug out from under them. I don't agree with that. The elimination of the Department of Education. Uh, I think it's insane that so many people have just tried to normalize this. Um, I think that the Department of Education plays a critical role in ensuring all students have access to a quality public education. And we've talked about that. I mean, I'm coming from a school where we got a ton of Title I funding, right? So that goes to show you that you can invest in people and that gets a payoff because they become productive members of society that pay taxes. It's a long term sort of thinking, though. Um, him speaking about the annexation proposals, it's insane that we're talking about making Canada the 51st state or how we want Greenland.
It's imperialism and
Like
colonization.
we're not gonna Hawaii our way into this, right? Like they're not going, and it's all that it's gonna do is continue to damage our international relations, and it's further complicating an incompetent Secretary of State's job. The global diplomacy thing, I think we're failing. One of my favorite things that he talked about in his speech, though, was kind of the Elon Musk influence on government. Um, I think that he is just Doge in and of itself is an issue, but we also need to talk about a lot of these contracts that they've been canceling. This is the thing that people aren't hearing. Like Oracle just lost a contract because they were $220 million over, which for a government project is really not a lot of money. Look at the F-35. That one was over billions. We still pushed it through. So with Oracle no longer being on the contract, who's going to get it? And I'm thinking this could potentially just be grabs to get Elon Musk shell companies or Peter Thiel's companies federal contracts without competition. So that to me is unnerving. You know, I thought he was passionate. Thought he brought raised a lot of awareness, and I will say that it takes a personal commitment to be able to do that. However, I still view it as performative because there is no strategy coming from the Dems in the Senate. There is no strategy. The House has more of a strategy than the Senate Dems do.
I think the problem. I think he alone isn't performative. I do think the Democratic caucus on the Senate is performative,
I'll
and I
concede to you. I'll concede that point to you.
and I say that because y'all clapping in the gallery and things like that. That's not going to help us. Who's going to step up to the plate next? Because I promise you, if y'all was about that life, y'all know what y'all would have did? Y'all would have had the next man up said, "Oh, let me take over the Senate floor and not release it for hold these bastards hostage. We all taking turns. Maybe you don't go 24 hours, but we all might do 8-hour shifts. It's 47 of us. We go 8-hour shifts, 47 people at a time. We could go, you know what I'm saying, a couple weeks. We damn sure could go a couple weeks
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
rotate that bitch on out.
I mean, because look at what one person was able to do. Tommy Tuberville held up over 400 promotions, over 400 severely impeded military operations. I mean, one person in the Senate can do a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but having multiple people on the same page, having some sort of strategy, as we would call it,
Exactly. Exactly.
you
Listen.
know.
I listen, I'm the type that's petty like this. You telling me, oh, I can't get the floor after him? Soon as the next person come up to speak, point of order. State your point of order. My point of order is I'd like to know if we are speaking on and start reading every word of the 1,336 page amendment. Right, let's do it. Let's get it.
I mean, and to your point, if every member of the caucus spoke for 8 hours, that would be 376 hours, which would be over 15 and a half days.
2 weeks.
2 weeks where there's nothing going on because you're, and I think it's a smart strategy because this administration has been going fast so they can get ahead of the courts. That's why they've been going fast. But if you prevent them from going fast, all of a sudden there's a backlog, and now we're getting caught up where the third co-branch can do something.
I mean, that I there's no Chuck Schumer, all of it. Oh, I had to do that because da 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 da. Da. Okay, even if even if I was to go with you and your bad strategy for voting on the CR, what are you doing now? You're doing nothing. And at least Corey said somebody got to do something. At least he had, his conviction to say, I'm just not going to sit back. I, I'm going to show y'all that we can do something. And the problem is, they're going to clap and applaud him and say, Congratulations, Corey, but none of their asses are standing in the paint like he did.
I mean, well, there's also, I mean, he up again, son. He got last elected in what 2020. Booker, isn't he up?
I mean, but Booker's in New Jersey. He's not worried about coming out of being voted out. He's not being worried about being voted out.
His co-senator has me a little concerned with how his voting record's been going.
The one who just took over for Bob Menendez,
The convicted felon,
hmm
the convicted felon.
whose daughter now has Joy Reid's spot at 7 o'clock weekdays, Monday through Friday.
Hmm.
hmm
Doing nothing with that time slot, by the way.
I listen. I'm side eyeing every black person that is over there now. And I've said this. I said this yesterday. I love Joy Reid, love her show, love her down. But the same thing that just happened to her, she did that to Melissa Harris Perry. Well, she didn't do it, but that happened to Melissa Harris Perry, and they took her off and put Joy Reid in there. And MSNBC has a history of this. But yes, Corey, the official time was 25 hours and 5 minutes that he was there. 25 hours and 5 minutes. I like I said, I don't know if he was wearing Depends. I don't know if he had a little water bottle or a jug or a bucket underneath. I could probably go that long without going number two. I don't know if I could go that long without going number one.
You remember there was I think it was a lady, a gentlewoman in Texas, where she did the filibuster. Was it Texas or was it Colorado?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like she couldn't lean on the podium. They had so many ridiculous rules to try to get her to stop speaking.
Mm.
I
Well, she
think she
wasn't.
did that. She had on an adult diaper and she had to wear like a back brace.
Wow, my
'Cause it,
back is real bad. If I did that the way my back is set up, I don't had too many things go on in my life that caused my back to get out of whack. And some people be kind of rough, so my back can't hold up like that. No,
Wendy
no.
Davis. Wendy Davis.
Mm. Out of what state?
I want to say it was Texas
Okay. Um.
because it was over abortion.
Hey, I see your I see what you put in the chat. Um, and I am monitoring that situation. Um, I'm monitoring that situation in Wisconsin. The Florida seats all went Republican. I'm monitoring the situation in Wisconsin. So
Are we shocked by Florida?
no, we're not.
Okay.
Not at all. Um Ronald it was a Texas state legislator.
It was.
So we had Corey doing that while Corey was on his marathon filibuster. The clandestine Department of Government Efficiency, the made up government agency, was gutting some of the most vital agencies to human life and well being here in these yet to be United States of America. We had them gutting NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Um, Thousands of people they had already laid off thousands of people. More than 1,000 more people were being purged and laid off there. Also, we know that with them gutting that agencies, things like weather balloons won't be going up as frequently. They're cutting services to hurricane hunters. They're cutting services to individuals that look at seismic data to see if any tsunamis or underwater earthquakes are coming that could affect the coastlines. They are monitoring ocean currents and things that affect seafood and fishing. They're monitoring a whole lot of things. And the interesting thing is, they don't just monitor this for the United States, but NOAA and the National Weather Service puts out information for the entire globe. In addition to that, Cams, we have over in HHS the gutting of the CDC, the NIH, the FDA, and several other arms within HHS, cutting out whole departments that deal with Alzheimer's, cancer research, HIV, and other critical illnesses and diseases there. All of this is being gutted. I'll let you start with this before I lose my mind. Let me go ahead and have me a one of the last bit of the hot cheese because I feel myself. Mhm.
I think that when we talk about these things, there's this sense of urgency, but people aren't going to see this immediately. The impacts of this will be felt over time. This is, I mean, HHS, I think they've eliminated almost 10,000 jobs, whether that's through layoffs or through the early retirement offers. But, and we talked a little bit about it, but I think that the impact to science is what has me a little bit concerned because they're pulling funding based off of ideological reasons. It's not whether the concept is sound, whether it's novel, whether it's set up appropriately. It's we don't agree with this, and it then kind of delves into this censorship lean that this administration has taken, especially with the threatening of private institutions that are doing a lot of the research. The US is just kind of throwing some funding in, but it benefits us long term. Um, I don't think many people realize that there are a lot of drug patents that are granted in America, but it's used globally. So the impacts are going to be interconnected. But let's start with the FDA alone. They've eliminated 3,500 positions. Most of those are in drug evaluation. So what does that mean? Well, new medication approvals are going to be slower. Treatment times are going to get worse for people. So if you are a person that has some sort of chronic ailment and the conventional things aren't working for you, your access to innovative therapies, that window just got a lot longer. Um, the CDC, I don't even want to talk about it, is when we think about the measles outbreak, when we think about the backlash against vaccinations, when we are cutting this already, and we've seen from this administration prior, it was not well prepared for COVID. It wasn't. It threw the pandemic playbook away. And with all of these people that are getting cut, I think that as we talk about chronic diseases, as we talk about injury prevention, looking at health disparities, they increase because access to health care, let's be very clear here, is going to be reduced in a lot of areas, especially if it's a rural area or like a poor urban area. I think that that gets impacted. I don't. The National Institute of Health clinical trials, they're either going to be delayed or they're going to be terminated. So a lot of these things that we thought we wouldn't be able to do, but we've been able to do them because NIH that slows down. Um, NOAA, I'm concerned about Tornado Alley, and I'm concerned about our ability to accurately forecast weather. We are launching less and less weather balloons as part of cost cutting. So, with those reduced data points, I think we put people's lives at risk for this. Not to mention that, when we have these issues with inclement weather, whether it's tornado, whether it's hurricane, earthquake, what have you, they're getting rid of FEMA. So then people are just going to be asked out. I'll defer to you for the rest of your commentary.
Let me start the HHS portion. At the NIH, the National Institute of Health, cuts include at least 4 directors of the NIH's 27 institutes and centers who were put on administrative leave, and nearly entire communication staffs were terminated. And that's according to an agency senior leader. That's there. Down to the CDC, um, union officials said programs were eliminated because of the layoffs focused on smoking, lead poisoning, gun violence, asthma and air control, and occupational safety and health. The entire office that handles Freedom of Information Act requests was shuttered. Infectious disease programs took a hit, including programs that fight outbreaks in other countries and labs focused on HIV and hepatitis in the US, and staff trying to eliminate tuberculosis. At the FDA, dozens of staffers who regulate drugs, food, medical devices, and tobacco products received notices, including the entire office responsible for drafting new regulations for electronic cigarettes and other tobacco products. The notices came as the FDA's tobacco chief was removed from his position. Elsewhere at the agency, more than a dozen press officers and communication supervisors were notified that their jobs would be eliminated. Now, here's the problem that you have here. Here's the problem that you have. The CDC is the branch that studies and looks at diseases, how they're caused, how to prevent them. The NIH are the ones who study the effective ways to treat someone. They give guidance to doctors. They give a lot of guidance to a whole vertical called medical affairs, which doctors use to determine the best ways to treat you. And then you have the FDA, who then approves and studies and sanctions the drugs that you can use in order to properly treat the diseases that the CDC studied and that can properly be prescribed by people that are being helped by the NIH. So the full scale and gamut of what we utilize for healthcare in this country has been completely affected. Mind you, we are the only quote unquote civilized country that does not have universal health care. And you're now gutting all of the things that we have right now. That ain't scary enough. Let me now take you over to Noah, because even the few outlets that are talking about what's going on in HHS, little to none are talking about what's going on with Noah, because it's not breaking news. It doesn't move the needle in terms of traction to talk about the nerds and scientists, as people will call them, that study weather patterns, send the weather balloons in the air. Look, I become meteorologist. I come from a school that has one of the largest meteorology schools in the country. One of the largest in the country is at Florida State University. Um, Huge meteorology school there, and I lived through a Category 5 hurricane. Lived through Andrew. Remember it. I remember being afraid that I was going to die at points. But knowing that I've also lived through a tornado, um, knowing that I was born in a city that if a tsunami hit the Atlantic Ocean, the entirety of that city would be underwater. And these are all parts of uh, NOAA, the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, and so forth, that are now being gutted, because you need these entities to give you fair warning. If you recall, um, when we had the tsunami that hit, what was that? The Indian Ocean, maybe about 15 years, 10 or 15 years ago. It was our Noah from the United States that was tracking that and giving them guidance on that. There was a tsunami that left Africa. This was about 12 years ago, I remember. And I remember there was guidance in Miami that everybody that lives in certain zones in Miami, you have to evacuate immediately. You have 1 hour. I vividly remember that. If you live in a tornado in Tornado Alley, you know full well when you hear those sirens go off, when you hear those sirens go off in your town and get the alert on your phone, it's immediately take shelter. It's no time to think about this. And so what I'm saying is without the proper personnel in place, this could be catastrophic. And then you couple that with Christy Nome, who is the Secretary of Homeland Security, saying we're going to shut down FEMA. This is all compounded. And I was talking to Kamz before we came on, and I just had to say even those of us who knew that this shit was about to be a shit show, who knew that Project 2025 was coming, who knew that this was going to be horrific, there was no way for us to wrap our brains around this happening this quickly. And everything, all of the guardrails and everything in place just summarily falling down this quickly. Even the architects of Project 2025 said in their wildest dreams they did not imagine this happening at this rate of speed.
Well, they're stupid.
I don't think they're stupid. I think they did not envision every guardrail basically failing, every single one.
I'm going to be honest. I don't buy that considering several authors are in this administration.
Well, then there's that.
So that is an outright lie. It's just if people don't get their checks, I think that's when the average American doesn't care until it impacts them. So when it impacts them, I think that's when we'll see something. But will it be too late by then? Or did we
Listen.
boil the frog and it just was unaware?
Well, listen. They're ending FEMA. They're cutting SNAP. What people don't understand is when there's a natural disaster, you get emergency, you get SNAP. Even regardless of your income, you get emergency, SNAP benefits and different things that people get in the immediacy of an emergency. All of these things are being gutted. All of it's being gutted. You literally put people in there who are wholesalely and wholeheartedly intent on seeing you suffer. They're not going to give a damn because they have billions of dollars, and whether or not they get a dime extra during a disaster, they'll fly somewhere else that's safe, get out of harm's way, and watch you people die.
It's interesting to me because I feel like the goal has finally been realized. Because I think the reason why you're not going to see all of this sort of furor over a lot of these cuts in these very science heavy agencies is because of anti intellectualism. It's not the first time we've seen it. Like when we had the rise of McCarthyism in the 1940s and the 1950s, a lot of people that were in academia and government, they were unfairly looked at with suspicion that they were communist sympathizers, right? That created an environment of distrust that, to me, never went away. 60s and 70s with the counterculture movements, civil rights movement, anti Vietnam War protests. Yeah, intellectuals became targets for a lot of conservative critiques. There was a backlash. Fast forward to the 1980s, where we have, the Reagan era, the promotion of, populism, the ordinary, American, which, this president can relate to me, rejection of ivory tower, quote unquote, musings. But then I would say even in the 1990s, we had a decline of traditional expertise. People started to just not believe expert opinions, especially when you have that growing public resistance, to the scientific consensus that was around climate change, right? During the time. And then you have Fox News coming out and really hitting heavy against the scientific authority, or this is just the science of like the liberal elites. I mean, even with the Tea Party movement, like I think that that populist backlash against intellectuals, that's when it kind of reached the peak. And then, people that are in MAGA now, Trump has always decried anyone that disagrees with his views, especially if they have any sort of expertise, as elitist, or it's fake news. And then you have people that are, working class people that maybe did not finish high school, that are buying into the rhetoric. So this doesn't surprise me.
What my concern is, even when we had all of those things going on, um there was always something or some entity in place, even when Americans have always had the luxury of being deliberately ignorant about things, because there were systems in place that allowed the luxury of Americans to be spoiled and have this willful, deliberate ignorance that other countries have not been able to have. Other people across the globe have had to understand what was going on, be involved in what was going on in their country. We've always said, oh, we have our constitution, we have democracy, we have the tenets of liberty and freedom, and there are things in place to safeguard that. We always have safety nets, and now that has not been tested. That has been completely thrown out of the water. There have been moments in our history where we've said we have tested these things. Now there's no more testing. This shit is gone. And people have gone back to their homes and to their jobs and to their hobbies and idiosyncrasies as if it's business as usual and these things will work themselves out. That's not the case anymore. And we don't have the luxury of willful ignorance, but people are acting as if they do. And that is dangerous. And by the time they realize that they cannot have willful ignorance, it's going to be too late. Because I'll give you a perfect example, talking about what we're talking about today. When the tornado is on your block, it's too late to say, I didn't get a warning. What happened? Baby, it's too late. It's here. And I think that's the realest example or metaphor that I could give that really applies to everything that I'm trying to explain. When the tornado is on your block, tearing everything up, at that point, it's too late to wonder why your phone didn't give you an alert, why you didn't hear the alarms, why my neighbor ain't called me. Baby, it may even be too late for you to talk about trying to move to the innermost part of your house, depending on the speed of the hurricane. I mean, of the tornado. And in this case, this tornado that we're experiencing is moving way faster than we thought it would be moving. And it's a lot stronger than we thought it would be. Another example, I talked about dealing with Hurricane Andrew, right?
Hmm.
30 plus years ago. What messed people up was I live in the hood. I was young. I was what, 13 years old, I think, at the time. I lived in the hood. They were expecting The forecast had it going through the northern part of Dade County, which was the hood. Okay, it's supposed to come through there. Uh, uh, the southernmost part of the eye was supposed to be somewhere around downtown, which means that the northern part of the eye, we're going to the northern part, Liberty City, Carroll City, North Miami, all of that area, tear us up. You know what happened? Literally, as it was coming ashore, instead of going like this at the very last minute, as it was coming ashore, it dipped and went down. And it went to Cocoa Walk and all of those areas where there was a lot of rich white people with a lot of rich white homes who did not prepare and who were told by the forecasters, oh, it's going to go up here to the poor people. And it ended up impacting them. Devastated. It looked like a bomb went off. Nobody was prepared down there. And the same thing, and I equate that to that willful ignorance, thinking, oh, it's not going to be me, it's going to be other people, until it's you. And by the time it's you, it's too fucking late. It's nothing you can do. And now you're just at the point of minimizing the casualties. And I think we're going to be at that point where it's just minimize the casualties because people are at the state of willful ignorance, which leads us to our third topic of the day, Liberation Day. I guarantee you, can anybody in the chat tell me what Liberation Day is? Do you know? Some of you all may know. Now I expect my people in the chat to know what Liberation Day is on April 2nd. But I would guarantee you, you ask 98% of Americans right now, they have no idea what they think. Oh, is that a new holiday? Is it? Is that? Do I get that day off? Is something happening? Well, I never heard of What's Liberation Day? I guarantee you, 98% of America has no idea what it is. Hmm.
Our
But
price,
this is happening tomorrow.
we're going to liberate you to higher prices.
Right. Kamz, you want to tell the people what Liberation Day is?
Sure. Um, the occupier of the White House has designated April the 2nd as Liberation Day. This is going to start the initiation of a new series of tariffs that are supposed to reduce our reliance on foreign goods, even though we don't produce shit. We're a services economy, but that's neither here nor there. So some of the tariffs are going to include reciprocal um, taxes matching those that are imposed by other countries, which are going to could potentially impact nations such as South Korea, Brazil, and India, which actually does a lot of manufacturing for other countries. Um, what people need to realize is that tariffs are direct price increases on the American consumer. So everyone that voted due to their economic anxiety, Goldman Sachs has updated their projections of a recession from 20 to 35%. And a lot of this is just based off the volatility of these tariffs. We're going to do the tariffs. We're not going to do these tariffs. Who knows? It's gotten so bad that the U.S. Senate, um, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine, has actually pushed forth a resolution that would nullify the President Trump's emergency declaration about fentanyl, because that's the impetus that he's been using to issue these tariffs. And you have, some Republican senators, Susan Collins out there in Maine, who is thinking about supporting the resolution because the tariffs are damaging to her state's economy. I mean, a lot of these government cuts, it's, they people think that they're targeted. They're not targeted. They're impacting people all over America because the government does so much. It's always been this sort of series, at least in America, where you have some government funding, then you have some, other sorts of funding. It's a public private partnership. And those partnerships are going to get damaged because a lot of people, especially with rural healthcare, they're just pulling out. Without those grants, without that money, they're pulling out. So we're going to see a lot of things increase. I know the 25% blanket increase on cars not produced in the US. What people don't realize is that due to our supply chain, before a component is finished, a car, for instance, it goes back and forth between Canada and Mexico at least 6 or 7 times. And they're going to, I mean, the way these tariffs are written, each time it crosses the border, that's a tariff. So this protectionism isn't going to work in 2025 because these major corporations, the owner class, the wealthy, they have set to exploit labor overseas because it's cheaper. Because they've made that decision, no one's going to invest billions of dollars to bring supply chains back here, to bring factories back here, and Americans aren't going to work in those conditions. Let's just be for real. Americans are lazy. So this Liberation Day, I think, is going to be a wake up call because higher consumer prices, supply chain disruptions, I mean, job uncertainty. I mean, people are laying off. No one's hiring right now. So you have a ton of people that were laid off from the federal government. They're now trying to get private sector jobs, but due to the insanity of the economic policy of this current administration, no one's hiring. Markets do not do well with volatility. Businesses like boring administration political stuff. They like a sleepy Joe. And with this market, volatility, I'm going to be honest, like we're going to get higher inflation. We might get stagflation if we enter a recession. And Japan was in, stagflation for an extremely long period of time. It's not fun for anyone. Everything is more expensive. Your money's worth less, and you're actually losing money in real terms if you measure the spending power. But I think the what I was telling you backstage, the important thing about this is look at these geopolitical alliances that are now um, popping up. You have China, Korea, and Japan saying that they will jointly respond to these U.S. tariffs. When you already had, geopolitical alliances such as BRICS, it's just pushing more and more people away from the dollar. And I do believe that by the end of this administration, if it continues amongst this path that we see, we're not going to be the global reserve currency. And that was to our benefit to be the global reserve currency. So we're going to be increasingly isolated and marginalized.
It's what's a
Oh, and your 401k and your
I was
pensions.
just that's
Kind
where
of,
I was going. You just took my thunder from me. Because I was going to talk about everything that we're discussing is happening on so many fronts. Because coupled with everything that you just said, they basically are telling people who are losing a lot of money in their 401k, well, you just have to suck it up. Well, what happens if I'm already at an advanced age? I'm already depending and relying on that, and you telling me that I just need to suck it up, and I've, done everything that I was supposed to do, and now I just have to suck it up. That is not, sir, that is not the right answer. That coupled with the fact that so now you're gutting people's 401k. That and the fact that prices are going up. That and the fact that people aren't hiring. Uh 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 people the companies just aren't hiring while you're simultaneously firing people from the federal government. All of this all going on at the same time simultaneously. Now I fully expect Cams that he's going to try to do this tomorrow and will do like he did when he tried that tariff stuff on Canada and Mexico, and by the end of the day say, oh yeah, that's not going to work. Oh, I just sent the global markets into an uproar. Mind you, Goldman Sachs has already said that the odds of us being in a recession next year just went from 20% to 35%. Hmm. So more than a 1 in 3 chance that we'll be in a complete recession next year. The markets the markets have not been in this amount of disarray since 5 years ago when we were in the middle of a pandemic.
which disrupted the entire global supply chain.
Exactly. So
So, I
now
mean, if
you
you're younger, it's not terrible, but if you're older, you're approaching, your retirement age, you don't have enough time to come back from these losses because most 401ks and pensions as well, they're invested in large cap companies. So primarily S&P 500. So if those, tariffs continue to cause markets to decline or swing wildly, those account balances will drop short term. They will. If you're young, you have the time to ride it out. But even then, continued volatility is going to impact your long term growth. So, and I think when we talk about pension funds with you, being a former educator, I think that for the public workers who rely on steady returns, low and slow, long term, it's going to reduce the value of their existing investments. It's going to force funds to have to take more risk to meet those obligations. But I think what's really going to happen is it's going to increase the likelihood of underfunding, especially for those states or municipal plans that are already kind of shaky economically. So it's a couple of different sectors to look at from that.
I mean, it's going if these things go in place. I just want to put it on layman's terms for some people because some people don't understand all of this stuff. When some of y'all go to order from Amazon Prime and you notice that you can't get it tomorrow or in 2 days like you wanted to, and you notice that when you first put it in your cart, it was one price, and now it's 25 to 30% more, then you'll start to notice. Like Cam said, we are a services driven economy. We work in the service industry in this country. We don't do a lot of manufacturing anymore, which is why, even for the few manufacturing jobs that we had, the undocumented workers that you people are trying to get rid of were doing those. So, one, we don't even have the infrastructure to have American made stuff. We do not have that. Even American made cars do not have the capability to shut off Mexico and Canada. Don't have it. And we're years. Donald Trump will be dead before this country is at a place where we'll be self sufficient, if it ever will be. We're not going back to that time. It's no way. It's not possible. The toothpaste will never go back into the tube. And because we live in we made this global economy. You do realize that, right, sir? Back in this time that you want to take us back to and making it great again to be was during the time where we turned the world into a global economy. What you don't seem to understand, you and your fucktards down there that you got working in the White House now don't understand is what it is, because this is a global economy and our influence globally that has allowed us to be the wealthiest nation in the world.
This is what I don't understand, right? This tariffs on like Canada and Mexico. He said that we had a bad deal. He said we had a bad deal with NAFTA. Okay, so under your administration, we came up with the USMCA, United States, Mexico, Canada agreement, because NAFTA did not include things like e-commerce and e-trade. Okay, so USMCA did include those things. Now you're saying that was a bad deal, but you negotiated that deal. You're supposed to be this astute business person, yet you had a casino go under, which makes no sense because the house always wins. So, I mean, a lot of these tariffs are coming from a deal that the previous administration negotiated. So, like, we're gonna raise prices because we suck at contract negotiation. Got it. It's the U.S. looks like it's a child throwing a tantrum on the global stage, and eventually, people start to ignore children that do that.
The man said he wanted a goods by good, country by country reciprocal tariff. According to economists who do this stuff and who study this stuff, you know how many tariffs that would be? 2.5 million.
I mean, I don't know what people want from me. We warned that this would happen. I don't know, screaming from the rooftops, went over Project 2025, and people still, the day after the election, what are tariffs? How can I change my vote? It goes back to the willful ignorance.
Mm-hmm. And that is the sad part of the American citizens is they have been lulled into this false sense of security with this willful and intentional ignorance. I don't need to know. I don't have to know. It ain't they'll figure it out. It's people that's in place that get paid to figure that out. We can't do that anymore. We don't have that luxury anymore. We just don't.
There won't be any luxuries in a minute. But I think that also there's some underestimating of the American populace. I think the reason why you've had people that were so willfully ignorant, the standard of living was high enough that people weren't going to get pissed off. But with you cutting so much of the federal government, you're going to directly impact people's quality of life. You're going to wake up some otherwise extremely apathetic people. Because we don't care until it impacts us. I'm telling you, the average American, the individualism that runs through American society, right? Until it impacts them, they don't care about it.
But here's the scary part. These people won't be happy until we're like Russia, where the oligarchs live in their little manufactured cities. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And they have all of the money while the rest of us are waiting in the line to get a can of beans. By the time everything will have been changed and put in place, and all of the things will have been orchestrated so that, oh, y'all poor, oh well, we have more money than we can deal with. Get over it.
But I
And
think
they'll
this is
still,
also the
and they'll
downside of
still be
populism.
screaming, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
This is the downside of populism, though. So easy to get, caught in a cult of personality when really this whole thing should be a logical process. What's in it for you? And so many people voted for something that was not in their economic interest. Then you have states that are, voting to get rid of income tax. But
You
your
saw
welfare
Mississippi.
state.
You saw Mississippi say, "Oh, we're getting rid of our income tax." You saw that? It came.
Yeah, we're
I
just
said,
gonna raise the sales tax to 20%. Like it's fine.
"Yeah, because oh yes, let's get rid of the state income tax, right? Because you think you're not going to have taxes anymore."
And it's funny because it's one of like literally growing up in Alabama. One of my favorite things to say was "Thank God for Mississippi," because I didn't luck up and land in the worst place that I could have been because Mississippi was worse in several regards. But and it's like they're cheering like, "Oh yeah, our taxes are gonna go down. The little government services you did have are gonna go away. Is what's gonna happen." Like there is no free lunch.
None at all.
But it's just like people try to like explain this like, and when we look at the intersectionality of that last election, like race plays such a huge role in it. People are all for government services until the wrong sorts of people are perceived as getting too much help from it, even though the facts don't support that, right? So I just think it's interesting how gleefully people will vote to fuck themselves as long as the people that they hate also get hurt. It's a very uniquely American thing.
I mean, you got to think that this man tried to run a campaign as if he was a populist, right? All the
Mhm.
while being funded by the richest people on the planet.
Look who was standing behind him at the inauguration.
But he was exactly
They were
on
in
the
front of
very
his
row
cabinet
behind him,
members.
the very row behind him. But he tried. People tried to make him this populist. Oh, he's reaching the common man, really, and
I
doing
know
what?
he ran a populist campaign, but everyone with a brain could see that he's not going to drain the swamp. He's just going to put radioactive materials in it.
I listen.
Look at the contracts that Elon Musk is going to get or is getting and will get in the future. Okay, now look up Peter Thiel's companies. I mean, look, we have Russian assets all in the highest echelons of our government. We're fucked.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, China is over there doing military drills outside of Taiwan to let them know, fuck around. This is happening. Get over it. If you need them.
Well, if that happens, then the whole global economy is fucked because TSMC makes all the fancy chips for the cutting edge technology.
China's thought is we'll turn it into a sweatshop. They will. And it's nothing we can do about it. Oh my God. Anyway, okay, Cams, I'm so proud of me. I did not melt down today. I did not spike out today. If you didn't know, you saw me, I ate a piece of candy so as not to spike out today. Aren't people in the chat, aren't you all proud of me? Don't you like me better when I don't spike out? They'll tell you, Cams, they love me better when I don't spike out.
If we wanted to see Mr. Rogers, we would just turn that shit on the TV.
I love Mr. Rogers.
It is not a beautiful day in the fucking neighborhood. Democracy's burning all around us, and you're just calm. You're cool as a cucumber.
Am I not supposed to be?
You're giving me the dims right now. Oh,
Oh,
this is
oh,
fine. We're
oh,
trying to reach across the aisle. Bipartisanship.
oh. What you're not going to do is compare me to those people. That's what we're not going to do. Exactly. Thank you, crazy homebody girl. Oh, but I was with you. She said, I'm proud of this. She said, it's okay for you to spike out. So,
I mean, it's just you showing passion about something that you really care about because you care about people. You have empathy for the folk.
I do. That I do.
The sick and shed in, the downtrodden. That's that
Hmm.
church in you.
Child.
No, he's definitely giving, different reality for some of these people.
So all y'all just come over here to see me lose my goddamn mind and spike out, right, Paul? You just over here to watch me spike the hell out. Ah! You happy now?
Better you than me.
So Kamz gets to sit there and just be calm, cool, and collected. And I have to be over here losing my mind, right?
I hope Susan wins though. I saw that she pulled ahead with a little bit more of the
Yeah, I was looking at that myself. I was looking at some of the results as they were coming in. Um, I'm hoping that Elon Musk just just lost a bunch of money, bastard. I can't stand him. Anyway, by my showing, she's ahead. Now she's projected. And what I'm looking at here, they
yeah.
have a projection of a win for her.
She carried Madison and she carried Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm not shocked by Green Bay. The one time I went there was for work and I was ready to leave within 24 hours.
Yeah, she's a projected winner as of right now, and what I'm looking at.
Yeah, the other counties they just don't have enough population.
Washington Post hasn't called it yet, but I'm looking
Hill did.
on who the Hill. Yeah, the Hill.
Hill
I was just
called
about to say that the Hill has already called it. News Nation has already called it as well. Um, I haven't even looked at CNN. They give me gas. Let me see what the AP says. That's a trusted source. Um, AP is saying they have not called it.
This is the most expensive judicial election in U.S. history with over
They
$90
spent
billion.
close to yeah, they're close to $100 million.
Yeah.
Close to $100 million. Yeah, AP has not called it yet, but most other places have called it.
Will you be running your mouth tomorrow?
I will be running my mouth tomorrow. We're not gonna do we are gonna do politics, major stories, but I'm supposed to break down that story about them saying that that show adolescence is a referendum on white. Not, I'll get to it.
I was saying you could cover the Wisconsin
Oh yeah, I'm
update.
going to cover that tomorrow, as well as the Florida elections tomorrow.
Well, look
So
at
yeah,
us. We did good today.
Cams, what do you have to say to the people before we get out of here?
It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. You don't have to be cool as a cucumber, like some people. It's okay to express your passions.
You want to talk, sir? When have you been passionate today?
We can talk about that offline. Anyway,
You mean when I clocked you on it earlier today?
you didn't call me earlier today.
I did. I did. When I called you, when I talked to you earlier, I clocked you
You
on.
did.
I called Cam earlier, y'all. I clocked him on everything.
You
I
did.
can't tell y'all what
You
I
made
clocked him
assumptions.
on.
You made assumptions. You
I
made
know
assumptions.
what I knew what I was talking about.
No, I wish. I wish. But no, I don't know. Just I will just say keep yourself informed because the information is going to be a critical resource that we may or may not have access to. With how if they revoke Section 230, the federal government is determining what you can and cannot see. Just know that. El Teddy, what you got for the people?
Listen, stay informed, stay vigilant, support independent media like this and people who are bringing you the news that sometimes mainstream media is not. Just support us. You can find ways to support Kamz in the description box. I'm sure he'd love you to give him a love offering and show him that you appreciate him coming up here week after week and dealing with me and my fuck shit. So
I've been held hostage for 25 weeks now. Someone please come save me. Thank you.
see, see. Anyway, I love y'all, and as we always say, regardless if the country is red or blue, we'll always be black,
Blake.
and do all of the things, y'all. We'll be back at it next time. Until then, that's all we got for y'all. Love y'all. Thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safely.